And then at the end of their demonic life of owning human beings, owning people, they decide that they're going to try and do something to absolve themselves or, redeem themselves. And so they put into their will that their slaves get part of the property that these slaves have spent their lives and generations working. The second way was what's called is sort of an indentured servitude. It's sharecropping, and many people saw sharecropping as better than slavery, but not much better. And what sharecropping was about was a black family or a black person would go, after emancipation, would go and work for a white farm owner, white former slave owner, and would work the land and then split the proceeds with that white land owner. And what would happen is you would have a person, a black person, who works, all year and works the land, plants the crops, harvests the crops, sells the crops to in, the city or town or whatever. And then the landowner would get 90%, and the sharecropper would get 10%, even though the landowner did not do any of the work. And so what it created was this huge debt that was owed, because the white owners would make the blacks rent the equipment from the whites and at astronomical prices. So the blacks were already in debt. So even from their 10%, they were required to pay their debt for the rental of equipment. So you might have a family, a black family that is sharecropping that may get $1,000, which that was a lot of money back in that day, $1,000 for their crop. But then remember, 900 of that automatically goes to the white landowner. So the black family is left with $100, which was still a lot of money back then. But from that $100, $90 may have to go to that white person as well for the debt of the rental of that equipment, season after season. And so, it left black families to have to live on 10% of 10% of their labor. And it would be a situation where they were willing, these black families were willing to sacrifice, to scrimp and save even that 10% of 10% in order to be able to buy their own farm equipment and get away from that debt. So, there was a lot of reparation type things that were perpetrated on black people that have never been addressed, have never been fully compensated for. We went through with the children the whole Reconstruction situation, where Congress, you had a white Congress that put in all of these reparations, these Reconstruction things for black people, knowing that they were basically a lame Congress, and that another Congress would come through in a couple of years and repeal all of this stuff, but it made them feel good at the time. And so, of course, the third, when these owners died, the sharecroppers would be given that 10% portion of the land that they had agreed upon, that they could share crop for themselves, that they could have for themselves. So the 90% of the land would be passed down to the white slave owner's family, and that 10% of the land would be willed to that sharecropper, again, trying to redeem themselves at their deathbed. These white owners were having done so much damage, so much dirt, and so much demonic things in their lives, would be trying to do something right in their death, and would will this portion to their black family. And of course, the third thing was during the different depressions that white farmers had to deal with. Many of them were forced to, for financial reasons, to have to sell their farms to somebody. And because blacks had money in their shoes and their coffee pots and their whatnot, while white banks had depleted white people's money, black people's money was not allowed to be in banks. And so black people had the money that white people needed to get their lives back together. And so many of them would reluctantly sell portions of their land to black people. So those were the three ways that black people actually got farmland. And of course, over the decades, white corporations have worked very hard to get that land back from black people. So we hope that was able to help the children. Tomorrow we're going to talk about senior citizens and how important it is for you to know your grandparents and great-grandparents' last name. So we thank you for joining us today, and if you have any children, you can let them listen to the show in the archives. If you'd like to support, you can go to BAC Avery. And tomorrow we're going to get into some more meat of the matter. But thanks for joining us, and until then, we say all power to the people.